Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode of Just Call Me Bridget podcast. I really do hope that you like this podcast, and if you do, please subscribe to the channel, and also if you would like a bit of more information, please join my Patreon because it really supports to help the podcast grow, and I really only want to bring the best guests out for you. I hope you enjoy another episode, and I hope that I do give you some new knowledge that you didn't know before and it was helpful. This is all why I do this. I started this podcast just to help all the visa holders out in Australia because I didn't have enough information when I started, and I really want to make this experience a lot better for you than it was for me, that you can just come to this podcast and you'll get everything you need to know to succeed in Australia. Thank you. Welcome for another Just Call Me Bridget podcast. I am so excited today. Today next to me is sitting Michael Jones, who has been in recruitment for over 20 years. I'm so excited because if you are someone who is either new to Australia, you have been here for a long time and you're trying to move up in your career ladder, you're just looking for a job, you've been struggling, all of those things, this podcast is for you. In this episode, we will talk about how to approach finding work in Australia before you arrive, once you're here, how to actually get attention of recruiters, what actually makes someone employable from a recruiter's point of view, and how to turn a temporary role into something longer term. Welcome to the podcast, Michael Jones. I'm so happy that you're here. I feel like I feel like your perspective is so much needed. Because I can talk all I want about how to actually get a job, but at the end of the day, you have been in this industry for such a long time. So I really do feel like your point of view will be so valuable to everyone listening.
Good.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you have gotten to where you are today?
Sure. So as you say, I've been in recruitment for almost 20 years. So I started doing recruitment over in Sydney, Australia, and I did finance recruitment back in the day. I kind of fell into recruitment like a lot of people do. I'd come from a sales background. I liked working with people. I did retail jobs before that, but I wanted a more professional role. So for me, like working with people, I like doing sales. What can I do? Recruitment was a good match of the two things. So I started doing that. After 4 years, I moved into a training role for the company that I worked for. I worked for a company called Hayes, which is one of the biggest recruitment companies globally.
Yeah.
And there I was training recruiters, and I've done that ever since. So for the past 14, 15 years, I've been training recruiters all around the world, teaching them how to help people find jobs. And now, since coming back to Perth, I work for myself, and I work with about 65 or 70 different agencies. So I have seen how recruiters operate, what they look for in a resume, how they support people on visas. And as you say, it's constantly changing, so it can be difficult to keep up. But hopefully that's what we can talk about and share in today's podcast.
Yeah. As you said, things are changing so rapidly, and obviously we need to take into account, that we have so many different sectors, we have blue collar, white collar, and they can be so very different in their own as well. What do you feel like the job market in Australia right now is currently at?
Well, the good news is that generally speaking, everybody I'm talking to is feeling very positive about 2026. So all industries, all sectors, all locations, the overall feeling is this is going to be a good year. I think 2025, there was a bit of uncertainty. We had local and federal elections. We had a lot of businesses unsure about what was going to happen with Trump's tariffs and trade wars and what's going on in China. So the job market wasn't amazing last year, but the good news is January has been really busy for people. And I think there's going to be quite a lot of recruitment happening. So lots of jobs available for people.
What do you feel like the new AI systems and what AI can provide us? How has that changed the recruitment world now?
Gosh, that's a really good question. It's so interesting. And I think AI and tech, there's really significant pros and there are some really major cons. If I look at it from a job seeker's point of view, I think the ability to find job vacancies and companies and create resumes that are more tailored and cover letters that grab attention, that's all quite helpful. From a recruiter's point of view, unfortunately, AI is having some challenges because what we're seeing as recruiters is thousands and thousands more resumes that have very obviously been written by AI that make it really hard for me to judge whether or not you are who I'm looking for. And is this you, or is this what AI has written or is saying? So there's some real interesting things happening with AI. The good news is that there's, in most instances, when you apply to a job, there's still a recruiter looking at your resume. There's still a recruiter talking to you and having a phone call to find out whether you're the right match for a position. And if not, what else might you be more suitable for? So it's not 100% robots and AI looking at resumes. And if you don't have the right keywords, you're in trouble. So that's the landscape at the moment, I'd say.
I was looking at a podcast from The Mining Mom, which is also a podcast in Perth.
Okay.
And they had a recruiter who, I don't think it was Hayes, but it was quite a big company. And he said that he put up a job ad for a TA role in FIFO. And he said he had 10,000 applicants within a week.
For a trade assistant role.
For a trade assistant role.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So
I'm hearing and seeing that all across the place. I advertise, because I do recruitment as well. I recruit experienced recruiters and entry-level people that want to get into recruitment. I put up an ad on Seek myself from time to time. I will get 200, 300, 400 applications.
Wow.
So the volume's quite significant.
Because you have so much experience looking through, as you said, the cover letters, the resumes. What are some of the key things that you always look for that you are like, nope, you're not the one?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And it really depends on what's the job, what level of skills and experience is required. When I'm looking at a resume, I'm looking at, does this person have relevant skills and experience from previous roles or similar roles? Is this person someone who's demonstrated longevity in their roles, or are they moving jobs and changing industries and jumping around every couple of months? Because if I'm recruiting for a permanent job, that's going to be a concern. If it's more of a temporary short-term job, it's less of a problem, but there's definitely things that recruiters look for in resumes. I mean, even the most simple things like, how's the resume presented? Is it basic and brief and full of spelling mistakes and it looks an absolute mess? Well, if so, next.
Yeah.
That because if we're dealing with thousands of applications, how do we narrow it down quickly? And something that's really not great is the average recruiter spends about 6 seconds looking at your resume before deciding whether to look further or whether to move on to the next person. So you've really got to make sure your resume grabs their attention in the right way.
How you said you're looking for the duration. I understand that for like permanent roles, but if we're only speaking for visa holders, in the first 3 years, we have a rule that we can only work for 6 months for one company. And also if we're speaking to someone who's just come to Australia, they might have a background, but normally Australian recruiters say, I don't care what you've done previously. Like, do you have experience in here? So you might be even like overqualified, even you finish uni, but you come here and you need to do agriculture. Or, you want to go and get FIFO. You have no experience beforehand. How can someone like that actually land their first job here?
Yeah, again, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And the thing that I would say is it's not necessarily the recruiter saying your overseas experience isn't recognized here. That's our clients. So unfortunately, the companies that we recruit for who pay us money, they are looking for previous local work experience in a lot of instances.
Yeah.
Or they want very relevant experience overseas in certain types of companies in certain countries. So as the recruiter, we're sometimes stuck in the middle, and I go, I've got this amazing person who's got a great personality, great drive. I can see they're going to be really good, but they haven't worked locally and they don't have the experience. And my client's not going to take a punt on them. And my dad experienced the same thing. So I'm English originally. My family emigrated to Australia when I was 16. And my dad had always worked all his life in construction, and he landed in Australia and he found it really hard to get a job. And everybody said, you don't have local experience. It's like, well, how do I get local experience if nobody gives me a go? And you're right, as you said, sometimes you might have loads of experience from overseas and you have to take a job that is more junior, a backward step in order to move forwards. So there's part of that, okay, I've got to check my ego at the door. I might be really experienced, I might be really senior, but to get started in this new country, I'm going to have to maybe take a step back or do something a bit different in order to move in the future. So there's that piece there. But I think if we're talking about casual or temporary work, it should be easier to get your foot in the door with casual or temporary work. And I think, and I know we're going to talk about this today, but I think there are some things that we can do as visa holders to get those job opportunities more easily, to get started.
As you said, you're from England yourself. There is this thing going on where they say that Australian style resumes. Do you feel like there is a difference in between the styling and how they build up their resumes compared to England and Australia? I've heard some recruiters say, like, do not add a picture. Some recruiters say, please do add a picture, and so on and so on. Do you feel like there is any indifference when you compare English style, European style resumes, or do you feel like it's completely...
So I've lived and worked in the UK and Australia in the recruitment industry, and I don't think the resumes are all that different. I think there are some basic principles of what a good resume looks like, and I think a lot of people get it wrong. So there's definitely some key things to include on a resume and some things to watch out for. So I think, particularly if you're from overseas and you're trying to secure work in Australia, you want your resume to be clear and concise. So not too long, but not too short. With the companies that you've worked for overseas, if an Australian recruiter has never heard of that business and doesn't know that it's a market leader or a similar type of organization to the ones you're applying for, they might overlook it. So one thing that I would say is, with the companies that you've worked for previously, it might be worth adding one sentence to explain what that business does. So for example, company ABC, a market leading car manufacturer in Germany that specializes in high-end cars. And if I was applying for a job here that was in the car industry, a recruiter would look at that, not recognize the name of the company, but see the explanation and go, oh, okay, this looks like it could be relevant. Let's take more of a look. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And, sometimes I even suggest adding a link to the company website so that somebody that's looking at your resume and isn't quite sure could take a look. It's making sure that your resume sells you and sells your experience. If I've got 6 seconds to grab a recruiter's attention, that recruiter needs to know very clearly, what were my key duties in those roles? What significant achievements or results did I achieve in that position? Is there anything like systems, software, machinery, or equipment that I've used that could be relatable or transferable. I think far too often people's resumes are too brief, too basic. I'm looking at it. I don't know if you're right, if you're good. I don't recognize this company. There's nothing really here grabbing my attention, and that's going to make me move on to the next person. Photographs are a no-no unless you're applying for a modeling job.
Oh, really? So it is a no.
100%. You don't need photographs. It's not relevant. And in some cases, it could lead to bias. So if a recruiter knows that a client prefers a certain type of individual, whether that's age or race or religion, having a photograph on a resume could lead them to overlook you and move towards someone else.
Oh, wow.
So no photograph, no personal information about your age, your religion, and even things like interests. Sometimes somebody could look at your hobbies and interests and go, oh, that's a bit peculiar, or based on that, I think they must be like this. So what we're really trying to think about is, how can we grab people's attention, but how can we make sure that we don't get overlooked or put to the side? So a well-written resume that's clear and concise, that has enough information on it to make the person looking at it think they look relevant, they look worth having a phone call with. Duties, any results or accomplishments, add them in. The other thing that I would suggest is to be really clear on your resume, particularly if you're applying from overseas before you've arrived, your visa status, your intended address in Australia, because oftentimes if I receive a resume through Seek, let's say, for example, Seek will tell me this person has temporary working rights, but it doesn't tell me what particular visa, what year of their working holiday visa are they in, because someone who's in year one might be a very different situation to someone who's in the last 6 months of a working holiday visa. So again, if there's any information that's missing, it might just be, look, I've got hundreds of other applications I've got to get through. I'm not sure, it's a bit too hard, move on to the next one.
What about applying through different websites? In my over 6 years of experience, working in offshore and FIFO and all of these different roles, I've often found that you'll have the same ad up on, Seek, LinkedIn, and then even on the company's website itself. And I've always found that the best way to actually get a job is through directly applying to that company's page. For your perspective, from a recruiter's perspective, because there's been like a saying going on, like pretty much Seek, you'll never hear anything back. Do you have sort of like different status, like that first I'm gonna look at all the applicants from like the company's website, then LinkedIn, and then if I don't find anyone, then I'll go into Seek? Or do you put everyone into some sort of same database and then go?
It's a very good question. So the way that it works behind the scenes is a recruiter goes to post a job ad, and they will create the job ad generally from within their database. And then in the database, there's functionality where they select which job boards they want to send it to. So this job ad that I've just written, post it on our company website, send it to Seek, and share it on LinkedIn. So it goes out to those 3 different places. The applications that come in will all come into the same place. Now, you could argue that a recruiter might look at the candidates that have applied to their own website first. In reality, I don't think that really happens. Oftentimes, all the candidate applications are reviewed by AI, and it ranks them based on keywords or experience, and it will put, these are the top 3 candidates, the strongest applicants. These are the ones you need to look at first. So in terms of your original question, where's the best place to apply to a job? I think, look, if you see a job ad on Seek, maybe check to see if it's advertised on the company's website, and if it is, apply there. But realistically, I don't think it makes too much of a difference.
In terms of cover letters,
Yes.
do cover letters get included in those keyword searches where you're going to see the applicants?
Not so much. So in terms of the AI screening the application and deciding, is this candidate very relevant, somewhat relevant, not so relevant, it generally mainly works on the resume itself. Is cover letter important and useful? Really depends on the role. I know some recruiters who never look at a cover letter, and I know others that do. If the job ad asks for a cover letter, make sure you include a cover letter. So for example, a job ad that I posted recently for entry-level recruiters, I had specified quite clearly in the job ad, please include a cover letter explaining why you want to get into recruitment. And I would say less than 40% of people followed that instruction and included a cover letter. Now, that to me shows either you weren't paying attention or you can't follow instructions. I would probably look at the people who included a cover letter a bit more because you have given me more information to go off. The thing with the cover letter is it just needs to be short and sweet. You don't need to repeat or rehash your resume, and make sure that you are tailoring that cover letter. You know,
so if you can see that it's like universal, pretty much, you're...
If I look, and you know, what turns recruiters off? Feeling like this person has applied to any job ad, every job ad. They're not really that interested in this position. They're just wanting anything. That might put some people off. Again, it's hard because the reality is for some people, I do need to get a job, so I'm applying to everything, and I can't hold that against people. But I think there is some benefit in including a cover letter where it's more of a longer term job and there's potential for sponsorship or extension. I think that's where you need to go the extra mile to stand out.
Now, we talked about this before the microphones turned on, but I have always suggested people to call the recruiter once they have applied. What is going on in the recruiter's head? Because I'm thinking, you know, you get so many applicants, then you'll have so many phone calls, and you have back-to-back meetings, you have so much going on. What is actually, does it actually work? Does it actually help you get forward?
It can do.
Yeah.
And it's tricky because, as we said before, if you're applying for a trades assistant role in mining, there's going to be thousands of applications. If 1,000 people called up that recruiter, they would have a mental breakdown and just not pick up the phone. But where you feel like I've got relevant experience that matches this role, and I can convey that to someone over the telephone, and I want to have a chat with someone, in that scenario, I would suggest reaching out. So trade assistant in mining, labourer in construction, those more general roles, I don't necessarily recommend picking up the phone for those. You could go into the office and see the recruiter, and we can talk about that in a moment. But let's say you are coming from overseas on a working holiday visa and you've got previous experience in accountancy and finance, let's say. You've been doing an accounts payable role overseas in your home country, and you see a job ad for an accounts payable role. You've done that job. You've got experience with that particular software or system. Maybe in that instance, you pick up the phone and call the recruiter to have a conversation with them. Now, 16 years ago when I was a recruiter, there were lots of people calling in, the phones were always ringing, it was busy, but I always want to talk to someone who's good and has what I'm looking for, because if that helps me cut through the noise of 20, 30, 50 applications, amazing. Nowadays, the phones don't ring as much in recruitment offices. A lot of work's done online or email. So it is a way to stand out. But I think you have to be really considered about your approach in your phone call. If you're calling up a recruiter who is, as you say, very, very busy, managing hundreds of applications, and you don't really have relevant work experience or the right licenses or tickets, that recruiter's probably not going to have a lot of time for you. And if you haven't thought about what you're going to say, again, it could be quite annoying. So where you've seen a job ad and you feel like you have relevant skills and experience, maybe to stand out from the crowd, picking up the phone and being a bit persistent might be a way to grab that person's attention. But you would have to be mindful that they are busy and I've got to sell myself. So, hey, Bridget, this is Michael Jones. I'm calling because I saw your job ad on Seek for an accounts payable officer. It was a temporary contract in Perth CBD for 3 months. Your name and number was on the job ad. I hope you don't mind me calling. The reason why I'm calling is I've actually done accounts payable work for the past 3 years in a similar company to the one you mentioned in your job ad. I've used the software that you mentioned and I'm immediately available and can start working. Are you open to having a chat with me to finding out more? But really what you've done in the first kind of 30 seconds is you've said to that recruiter, hello, I'm what you're looking for. And hopefully they'll want to have a chat.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be quite upfront in terms of, I'm on a working holiday visa, this is where I'm at, this is what visa I'm on. But for a casual temporary position, that shouldn't be a problem. Now, I did mention as well, dropping into a recruitment office. I think trades and labour, trades assistant, trying to do FIFO work. I have worked with a lot of labour hire agencies where it's very common for people to walk in and register. So a French backpacker, an English guy that's just arrived looking for a labouring work, I would recommend find the relevant agencies, go there with a copy of your resume, with a copy of your licenses and tickets that show that you can start work straight away. They will probably sign you up there and then, and they may even have some work for you to go straight out to the day after. That's quite common. And going into a recruitment office is a way of standing out from the hundreds of applications, grabbing that person's attention, but also showing a level of commitment and confidence. You can communicate and interact with the recruiter. And really, once you get that person bought into you, like, I know this guy, I know this girl, they can communicate well, they've got 2 arms, 2 legs, they've brought everything with them. It's almost like a bit of a tick of approval.
Yeah.
So in that instance, you can potentially get on the books and get that working much faster.
Now, coming from, my perspective, where I've been here a long time and I'm now looking towards a more permanent role that has a lot more, qualifications needed, a lot more experience needed. But I personally know I'm not leaving, but the recruiter sees you're still on a temporary visa.
Yes.
What are some of the red flags that I need to look out for, or when I'm applying for those more permanent roles? Or now, what I've seen is that a lot of recruiters are now stating Australian citizens only.
Yes.
What would make me the best applicant for that recruiter? Still, being on a temporary visa, but I know my pathway, but they might still see me as a red flag that you might leave, any other day.
It's really hard, isn't it? It's hard to reassure someone that doesn't know you. And again, to come back to it, when you see on a job ad, you must have working rights, Australian citizens only. That's often because that's what our client is telling us. We cannot or will not sponsor, either because we don't have the relevant licenses or permits, or it's too expensive for us to do it. So the recruiter's often stuck in a situation where I've got all these amazing people on visas, who want to stay permanently, why won't you give them a chance? But I think in answer to your question, how do you reassure someone? So I think there's two things that I'd say here. If you can demonstrate that you have roots here that show you intend to stay here permanently, that's something. So I've got a lease that I've got an ongoing lease on a property. I have bought a car. I have family here. I have an established group of friends. The more you can show that you've got roots, that's somewhat reassuring. But this is always the question in the back of a recruiter or an employer's mind. If I give this person an opportunity, are they going to stay? And no one has a crystal ball. So you just have to hope that people are willing to give you a chance. What I would say, though, is if you know when you're coming to Australia on a working holiday visa that there's a pretty strong chance that this is somewhere you would like to live and you think you might want to stay here long term, because for some people that's the case. Other people are like, no, it's just for an adventure, it's just for 12 months or just for a couple of years, and then later they fall in love. But if you have a pretty strong feeling early on that you're going to want to stay, you have to kind of start early in terms of laying the foundation for that. So just as an example, recently I received a phone call from someone who I had placed their friend into a job. She was on a working holiday visa from the UK. The company loved her and they're now looking to sponsor her. And the friend was like, well, I'd also like to get into recruitment and I'd like to stay. Fabulous. But it turned out he was in his last year of a working holiday visa. So there was only 12 months left before a company would have to sponsor. And realistically, that company is going to have to start that process 6 months before. So this individual really only had a couple of months to prove to a company, I am good enough for you to spend thousands of dollars on me. It's not enough time. And for the past 2 years of their working holiday visa, they were traveling around doing hospitality jobs, retail jobs, casual work while they traveled and enjoyed the country. Now, unfortunately, they didn't have enough work experience in that industry to even qualify for sponsorship. So I kind of had to say to the guy, I feel awful. I'd love to help you, but because you don't have enough time to give an Australian company the chance to properly test you out, they're not even going to consider it.
Yeah.
If you'd had come to me 2 years ago when you first arrived and said, look, I want to stay. Recruitment is a job that I know can be sponsored. I'd like to get into it. He would have maybe had 3 years of working holiday visas to give the employer a chance to test him out. So look, it's hard to reassure someone that you're going to stay long term, but sometimes your actions before that point might show a commitment or roots or that desire.
What do you feel like at the moment where the employers themselves are at within their mindset of, because we as immigrants, we get a lot of sort of shade in like some of the certain industries of like there's you can see it in the news every time that there's like overwhelm and like there's too many people and so on. Do you actually feel, because obviously in the immigration websites you have all of these shortages that Australian employers can't fill?
Yes.
What do you feel like is the most critical sector at the moment that you're just struggling to fill in?
Yeah, look, we have record low unemployment in Australia, but there is a massive skills shortage. And unfortunately, industries like engineering, healthcare, hospitality, there's a real shortage of people. And we need immigrants. We need people on working holiday visas. We need local Aussies to step into those jobs. There are lots of people locally looking for work, but unfortunately they don't have the experience, the skills, the qualification to do those jobs. So we have to look overseas. We have to import talent. The really frustrating thing for the recruitment industry is companies aren't always as open or willing to take on sponsorship or to invest in someone from overseas who doesn't necessarily have the local experience. So, you know, on the one hand, we've got companies going, we desperately need people, help, we can't find individuals. And recruiters are going, well, we've got all these people here on working holiday visas or people looking for sponsorship. And the companies are going, oh no, but we won't sponsor. We need people, but oh no, we can't do that. It's too hard. It's a bit of a catch-22 situation. It's tough.
Yeah.
And some companies are coming around to it more. Because there's only so long that you can go without having those jobs filled.
Yeah.
But I would say engineering, healthcare, education, hospitality, skilled trades, whether that's in construction or mining, they would be areas where we're really, really struggling, and we need people with overseas experience to come to Australia. Now, we need people to build houses, for example. The challenge is we don't have enough houses for people to come and live in. That's a whole separate issue and challenge, the whole rental crisis.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation.
It is. A little commercial break from this amazing podcast. I just wanted to shout out Pleasant Active products for you guys, because I've been using them for the past few weeks and it's been absolutely amazing. I'm already seeing the changes that my hair goes through. So I've been using their shampoo, conditioner, and also their hair serum oils. It's absolutely amazing. I started using them because my hair used to be very long. It was really healthy and very thick and nice. But I just lost all of that when I moved to Australia because of working in the farming industry and also in FIFO. My hair is always exposed to very dusty environments, and also the water here is a lot harsher. Because I keep bleaching my hair as well, it's done its damage. But these products have really helped me to start my hair growth journey and really get my hair back to its healthy state. They use all of these amazing ingredients like placenta extract, keratin, liquid silk, glycerin to really nourish and strengthen your hair. I'm very excited to share with you my journey on how my hair will start growing back to life. And if you want to try out these products as well, please use a discount code which is the same as my Instagram username, so Bridget HVA. So it's like my name, Bridget Hyvä, but just skip the U in the middle. So let me know how you go if you do try out these products, and let's grow our hair long together. What do you feel like the recruiters that you have been training are struggling the most at the moment with, you know, what, like their people that they have hired? Are they letting them down too much, or what do you feel like the biggest issues are at the minute to actually get people onboarded?
So look, the biggest challenge for recruiters in Perth is there's a lot of job vacancies. There's not a lot of relevant, skilled candidates. So finding candidates for their job vacancies is the biggest challenge for most recruiters. And then, of course, the challenge is when you do find someone, if you're not fast enough in terms of getting them through the mobilization and onboarding process and getting them out to site, they might get restless, they might get offered something else, or that candidate might jump ship for $1 extra or a better roster. So it's very hard to find people. It's very competitive. It's tough to retain people. It's very challenging in that respect.
Especially in FIFO industry, like
Yes.
you said, you know, because you might be working for 2 or 3 different labouring companies, and
That's right.
you're just going for the first one who gets you in,
That's
and then you're
right.
going to cancel everything else.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if someone's offering you a better pay rate or a better roster, then yeah, you're going to just shift, which is fair enough.
Have you noticed something from your most like longest standing candidates? Is there anything that you can spot straight away that like, I know this person is going to do what they say they're doing?
That's a really interesting one. I think you learn to become a pretty good judge of character. Look, we can get it wrong sometimes, but that's why it's so important for recruiters to speak to their candidates on the telephone and meet them in person. You know, if a candidate agrees to come into the city for an interview, if the candidate shows up on time, if the candidate's well presented and has brought what you've asked them to bring, those are signs that someone is reliable, that they're committed, that they're half good. And that's a big tick. And then it's a case of, how do I feel about this individual? What vibe am I getting from them? Are they someone that I do feel my clients are going to like, that the crew is going to get on with? Or do I have suspicions that they're going to miss their flight, turn up to work drunk, get into a fight with the boss and cause me lots of problems? Because if that's what I'm thinking, I might just give them a miss. And I think, you know, that's how you show up and how you behave. But it's also, and again, this is a good tip for visa holders, is referees and references. And I think if you're coming from overseas, if you can have some written references or some referees that people can reach out to, that would be really helpful. You know, a previous boss, a previous employer saying Bridget was a great employee, hardworking, no issues with her punctuality or attendance at work, really sorry to lose her, would definitely recommend. Like, that's another reassurance to someone. Oh, she hasn't worked in Australia. We don't have any proof that she's good here. However, look at these references. They're pretty decent.
I saw recently that you posted on LinkedIn that you actually called one of the referees and it was their own friend, sort of.
References.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Okay. So what is that? Because I don't think that has been such a thing in Europe to use references and that the recruiter actually calls them through. Do you have like a minimal set of, you know, references that you would love to see on the resume?
So in the UK and in Europe, it's not that common to take references. And it's kind of like in America, companies are reluctant to say anything about someone for fear of getting sued or getting in trouble. In Australia, it's much more common to take references from previous employers. And the agencies that I work with and how I operate, I generally recommend taking a minimum of 2 references from recent previous employers. So that's kind of the standard for most agencies. And they'll either send out an automated reference by email for someone to fill out, or they'll call up and do it over the telephone. So yes, you want to have referees that can talk about you and your previous experience, because that's quite common. And if you can't provide references, it could be a bit of a red flag.
What are some other things that you feel like visa holders misunderstand about the Australian job market on its own?
I think something that people get wrong is how easy it's going to be to get a job and how much money they can earn immediately, or that I can walk straight into a job that's going to give me sponsorship, or the company's going to pay for my visa. Unfortunately, in a lot of instances, that's not the case. You have to work really hard to stand out from the crowd and secure your first role. You have to work really hard once you've got a job to show that employer that you are someone that they should extend or consider sponsoring. And in terms of pay rates, you have to be much more realistic about what you can earn, because a lot of people will say, well, in the UK, I was earning $50,000, therefore I should be earning $100,000. It's like, well, that's not what the Australian market pays, and without having local experience and local knowledge, a company's not going to pay that to you, not initially anyway. So you might have to accept $80,000 as a starting salary, but it's about getting a foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people underestimate how easy it is, or sorry, they think it's going to be easy and they underestimate how challenging it is to stand out.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the more you can do before you leave, the more proactive you are when you arrive, the more of these tips you incorporate, the more successful you'll be.
Mm-hmm. When you have two applicants, and when I'm speaking from if you are not coming here on a working holiday visa, but you're coming here to get a skilled visa straight away, and before you even arrive to Australia, is there even much benefit to applying before you actually arrive if you already have relevant experience from overseas? Or would it be something that you would rather say just wait until you arrive and then start applying? Or would you even consider someone who's applying offshore?
Yeah, if we're talking about somebody that's coming over with skills and experience and looking for either a temporary job or that skilled visa job opportunity, there's really no harm in reaching out before you arrive and being quite proactive. Now, obviously, there's a sweet spot. If it's 3 or 6 months before you're coming, well, it's probably too far in advance. So what I would suggest is once you know that you're coming to Australia and you have relevant skills and experience, you can start reaching out to recruiters that specialize in those particular types of jobs to have a conversation with them. Let the recruiter know, I am going to be landing in Australia in 6 or 8 weeks' time. I'm going to be based somewhere in the central CBD. I would love to have a conversation with you about local opportunities. You might have to chase them a couple of times because recruiters are quite often focused on the immediate job vacancies in front of them. But a smart recruiter who has someone reach out from overseas that has a really strong profile with relevant skills and experience, what they're thinking is, great, I've got 6 to 8 weeks to find them something before anybody else does. Because let's not forget, recruiters compete against other recruiters to place people and get a fee and earn commission. So if you're reaching out to someone and setting up an appointment or a conversation, that's giving them a head start. What you can also do is you can reach out to industry associations that are relevant for the job you do. So let's say, for example, if I'm an engineer, if I've worked in engineering overseas, and I'm looking to come to Australia, I could connect with Engineering Australia, the industry body, and see if they can give me any advice on what do I need to do to make sure my qualifications are relevant in Australia. Is there any training or upskilling I need to book myself onto? Are there any organizations that you know actively take on people from overseas that I should be talking to? So there's talk to recruiters, talk to industry bodies, and just start reaching out yourself through LinkedIn to companies that you might want to work for that are similar. So this is what I did when I was in London. I was in London until 2021, and I was moving back to Perth. And I was like, right, okay, I can't transfer with my company. I'm going to have to hustle and find myself some work. Now, I've got a husband and I've got animals to support. So I've got to make sure that I find a job really quickly because I've got responsibilities. So I can't wait until I arrive and then start looking. I've got a couple of months before I hit Australia. Let's see what I can do to network now, and who knows what might come of it. So I mapped all the relevant organizations in Perth that I thought might be interested in someone like me who might have an opportunity for my skills and experience. and I sent them all connection requests on LinkedIn. And then as they started to accept them, I'd send them a message. Hi, Bridget. My name is Michael Jones. I am an experienced person in your industry coming to Perth in April from the UK. I was reaching out to see if you might have any job opportunities or know of anybody in your network who might be interested in talking to me. And a number of them said, oh, we'd love to set up a video chat, or we're not looking, but I do know this company is looking for someone like you, try them. And I actually got a permanent job off the back of that. So before I arrived back in Australia, I had found a job for myself through proactively networking on LinkedIn. And that's something that anybody could do.
Do recruiters actually look at your LinkedIn profile?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
What are some of the things that you are looking for?
So what we're looking for is, well, in the first instance, is there any additional information on the LinkedIn profile that supports or strengthens what's on their resume? Now, the biggest issue is oftentimes people's resume doesn't match what's on their LinkedIn profile. So if they don't match and there's jobs missing, or this is different, or those dates don't add up, you're now putting doubt and question marks into the recruiter's mind. Why don't that add up? Why is that different? So make sure your LinkedIn profile and your resume are telling the same story. What we're also looking at is what are you doing on LinkedIn, if that's relevant? Are you posting anything? Are you sharing any content? Are you talking about anything that, again, strengthens you in terms of your knowledge or expertise? Now, not many people share content on LinkedIn, but if you do, you just might want to think about, what have I shared, and is that going to paint me in a good light or not? So if I'm applying for a job and my LinkedIn profile is half-assed, it doesn't match my resume, and the only thing I ever post about is negative stuff, criticizing my industry or my company or whatever, it's probably not going to make that recruiter or employer think, this guy looks like a winner. The other thing about LinkedIn profiles is I would suggest for people coming to Australia on visas to change the location of their LinkedIn profile before they arrive. So, and again, not everybody is going to need a LinkedIn profile for the jobs they're applying for, but if it is relevant, perhaps change your location from whatever country you're coming from to Perth, because that way, as recruiters are searching, they're going to start to see you in their searches, and people will start reaching out to you. You can be specific. Coming to Perth summer 2026 on a working holiday visa, so it's clear to people, but that's something you could do before you arrive, perhaps.
Is it worth messaging recruiters or setting up connections through LinkedIn straight away? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And again, it depends on the industry. So if we're talking about blue collar construction or mining, not so much. But if you are coming from a professional background and you're looking to get into a more professional role, then absolutely, it could be definitely worthwhile to reach out to a recruiter, send them a message. Again, letting them know you're coming to Australia on this date, on this visa, you're looking for these types of opportunities, and you'd love to talk to them about what they might be able to help you with. Make sure you are messaging a relevant person though. So I get lots of messages on LinkedIn from people who are looking for work, and I don't recruit those types of jobs. So if you sent me a message going, hi Michael, I am a chemical engineer looking to get into work in Australia, can you help me? My instant reply is going to be, I don't recruit chemical engineers. Why have you messaged me when it's very clear that's not what I do? So I think if you are going to go to the trouble of messaging someone, make sure that you're messaging the right person.
Now, if there is someone who is listening at the moment and they are like, I would love to get into recruitment, what are some of the personality traits that you would love to see in someone who is trying to get into recruitment?
So the great thing about recruitment is you don't need a particular background or previous work experience to get into it. I've worked with thousands of recruiters all around the world, and I've seen people from all different walks of life. You know, I've seen people from sales and hospitality backgrounds, real estate, insurance. I've seen people straight out of university or straight out of school. So that's the good news. I think you don't have to have a particular background, but generally speaking, there are certain characteristics that we're looking for that make people good at recruitment. It's the ability to have a conversation, the confidence to ask questions. That's really what it's about, I think. It is someone who has hustle, someone who's prepared to work hard, because recruitment is really hard work and there's a lot of plates to spin. It takes 12 months to build a network of candidates and clients and see results from your hard work. So that ability to stick with something and work hard to become successful is a lot of what we're looking for. The other thing is resilience, because recruitment is full of rejection and disappointment and things don't go your way. So that's another thing that I'm looking for. Does this person have the ability to dust themselves off, pick themselves up and keep going, even when things aren't going their way? But yeah, look, recruitment's all about people. So it's people skills, it's the ability to ask good questions, it's resilience, and it's hustle. That's what I look for anyway.
Now, as you said previously, you have now started your own company around 4 years ago,
That's
as
right.
I remember. Is there like you said, recruitment agencies are fighting for, certain contracts to obviously, get a very good commission of to send people. Is it a big war sort of going on at the moment, do you feel, or do you feel like there's just so many people that are looking for a job, so that's like pretty much set?
I mean, there's lots of people looking for work, but as we've talked about, not necessarily the right people with the right skills and experience. So from a recruitment agency point of view, it is very competitive in terms of trying to find the individuals that match the job vacancies that their clients have given them. So it's competitive in that sense. And then it's competitive in terms of, if I've found somebody that ticks all the boxes and has the skills and experience, I've got to get them in front of that client, get them into that job quickly before someone else swoops in and takes them. So it's competitive, it's hard, there's a lot going on, but the competition is really finding the people, not necessarily finding the work, because there's lots of companies hiring and needing staff members.
1 hour already done. Before we finish, do you feel like there's anything else that I haven't asked you today that you would love to bring up from your, massive, because you have so much experience. You're now training recruiters. You're now training the people that we are trying to get under them. So do you feel like there's anything else that we haven't mentioned today that is so important?
I think job hunting can be really hard. And it's quite easy to get frustrated and beat yourself up when you're getting rejection or you're not seeing results. And, I've heard stories of people that have sent hundreds of applications and not had any luck whatsoever. And that's really, really sad. It's about understanding you're dealing with, there's a lot of people looking for work, not necessarily as good as you or maybe stronger than you. So you've got to be very persistent and you've got to try lots of things and think about, how am I going to set myself up for success? A really well written resume, a good cover letter if required, following up with a phone call, going into the recruiter's office if that's relevant, making sure that I am presenting myself in the best possible way. And when I'm given an opportunity to do a job, that I impress. And I think you can do all that hard work to get an opportunity as a working holiday visa individual. And you can blow it very quickly if you chuck a sickie because all your friends are going to the beach because it's really hot, or you are unreliable in terms of your attendance at work, or if you are not responding to your recruiter or getting the best feedback. So I think if you work really, really hard to get a job opportunity, don't blow it by doing something silly that you don't think about the long-term impact. That's something else to consider. But I've changed countries a number of times. I emigrated from the UK to Australia. I moved from Perth to Sydney. I moved from Sydney to London, and London back to Australia. I get around. So I know what it's like to up sticks and move countries. It's hard. It's expensive. It can be tough when you don't know anybody. It can be hard to get into a new routine. What I always say is give it 12 months. It takes that long, I think, to build a network and a community and get into a new routine. There was a girl that I recently helped find a job here in Perth. She'd done recruitment before. I got her a recruitment job here. After 6 months, her partner wasn't really enjoying it here and was struggling to get work. So they decided to move back to the UK. And she's just come back because they went back home and they're like, what are we doing here? It's awful and the weather's terrible. And actually Australia is where we should be. So she came back. But I think sometimes we pull the plug a bit too soon because it's a bit too hard. Give it 12 months, give it your all. Don't give up too soon because Perth's pretty special. And I think you can have a great life here if you're lucky enough to.
What's coming for you in this new year?
Lots of work, lots of interstate travel. So my clients are all over Australia and New Zealand. So I get to go to lots of different states and cities, which I love doing. I'm presenting at a number of industry awards nights and expos, which is great. I love doing that. Maybe some more podcasts. It's going to be a busy year. I think this year, particularly, as I said before, a lot of recruitment companies are going to be busy, I think, which means they'll need more training, they'll need more staff. So hopefully it's going to be a big one.
What do you feel like? Do you feel like there's even more changes coming to the whole process now with the AI and the massive changes?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I think there's been a lot of noise about AI replacing recruiters or doing all these different things. And yeah, there's definitely some enhancements and some improvements. But I think in many cases, the jury's still out. I don't think too many people are seeing too many significant improvements from AI to really go hard with it. But look, at the end of the day, from a recruiter's point of view, recruitment's all about talking to people, interacting with people, building relationships with people. A robot can't do that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Then I think from a job, from a job seeker's point of view, there's definitely tools to help you, but don't rely on them too heavily. Because if you've used ChatGPT to tailor your resume and write your cover letter, and it was so good that that's got you an interview, if you now struggle to do the interview or sell yourself, you're not going to proceed any further. And you can't halfway through an interview go, that's a great question, Bridget. Let me just see what ChatGPT says the best answer is. Okay, so in answer to your question, what I'm going to tell you is, you've got to be able to have a conversation and you've got to be able to sell yourself. So job seekers, be careful not to rely on ChatGPT or AI too much because it can actually hurt your chances when looking for jobs.
One more final question. What are some of your best tips? Because obviously, as a recruiter, as someone who is looking for a job, as someone who is an entrepreneur, what is some of the tools that you use to sort of take yourself to the right energy level and to sell yourself and to make yourself you know, being remembered, you know, being the person that people trust and go to?
Gosh, that's an interesting question. I think, look, if I think about in the context of setting myself up to succeed in an interview situation and make somebody want to hire me, I think there's a level of self-confidence and self-belief. Like, I've got the interview because they're interested in getting to know me more. They, you know, so that's good. That's great. Have that confidence. Go into the interview prepared to sell yourself. I need to convince this person that I am the person that they want to hire. And even if I don't have all the skills and all the experience, it's the personality that they're getting. Because I think your skills and experience gets you an interview, but what makes somebody hire you, it's, do I like you? Can I see you being part of my team? And do I think you're going to be hardworking, loyal, and committed? And I think in an interview situation, people aren't very confident selling themselves. And because they're nervous, they don't show much of their personality. So I always tell people, when you go for an interview, you are there to sell yourself. And it's about showing your personality to get them to buy into you. And a tip that I would always say to my candidates is, at the end of the interview, if you're keen and interested in the job opportunity, let them know. You know, say to them, Bridget, thank you so much for meeting with me today for this interview. I've really enjoyed hearing about this job opportunity, and I think it's something that I could do and do well. I really hope that I get the opportunity to talk to you more about this position. I think I'd really like to work here, and I think I could bring a lot to the position. Like, what a nice way of wrapping up the interview, showing your enthusiasm and your interest in the position. And people remember that lasting impression. Now, they might go, Bridget's not the strongest candidate technically for the role, but I really like how eager and enthusiastic she was. I could see her working really hard for us. Let's give her a go. Because you can train skills, but you can't train someone's personality or their natural characteristics. So
I feel like that is where we are moving more towards recently. I feel like whatever section you are applying to, I feel like job posters or, you know, who are looking for workers, I feel like they are bringing a lot more of like this IQ testing, personality trait testings, because it is, like you said, you can't train how you show up, how you
so important.
how much do you want to learn, how eager are you to learn.
You know, you can hire someone who technically is so skilled, so strong, but if they're a nightmare, if they're unenthusiastic, if they're a diva, if they're going to cause problems, it's just not worth it. So I think when we're looking for jobs and we're interviewing or we're talking to recruiters or employers, I think we underestimate the importance of creating a connection, showing your personality, getting them to buy into you.
So I feel like there is a movement in Europe going around at the minute, because my friends have told me that now they are overqualified for certain jobs. So employers are worried that if they are looking for, let's say, a waitress, and they want that waitress to stay in that position for many, many years, but they have an applicant coming in who's done this bachelor's degree, they've done leading, you know, being a leading hand, the supervisor, that they have said, you know, you're great, obviously you have so much more experience, but we don't want to hire you because we feel like you're going to want to step up in the ladder. Do you feel like that is coming to Australia as well?
I think it's been here for years and years. I heard the same thing when I was a recruiter, and I would have very mature candidates who were looking for temporary or casual contracts, and the feedback was the same. This guy, this lady has 20, 30 years of experience. She's done a much more senior job. Why does she want this job? Like, isn't she going to be bored? Isn't she going to want to get promoted after 5 minutes? And it's hard, again, to reassure someone, no, And reframe it. Like, look at the advantage you have as an employer of hiring someone so skilled and experienced. You don't have to teach them the basics. You don't have to worry about this person's level of commitment to the role. They've shown that previously. And no, they're not looking to get promoted after 5 minutes or whatever. This is the decision that they've made at this stage with their career. Give them a go. Again, it's...
So you personally feel like that would be rather a good thing?
Absolutely, yeah. And look, completely understand an employer being worried about those things, but what we always try and do is flip it to the positives. Rather than think negatively about hiring somebody more experienced, look at the positives of hiring someone experienced.
Yeah.
Not easy to do, but that's always what we try to do.
Amazing. Is there anything else you want to add? Or
I don't think so. Look, I take my hat off to anybody that changes countries and goes overseas for a working holiday visa. It's a great opportunity, and for lots of people, it's a pathway to staying in a new country permanently. It's definitely tough, and I think hopefully I've shared some tips and tricks and ideas that will help people navigate the job market more successfully. Don't be discouraged. You're going to have to do lots of different things and talk to lots of different people and try different stuff. But if you do, you should see some success. So no, I just wish everybody the best of luck, and I hope that they get to start a new life down under like I did.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in today. I'm so incredibly thank you. And like, you took that time off your busy
That's
schedule.
fine.
And we have so much more podcasts like this coming in. Thank you for you, my sweet listener, for making it at the end of this podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out any future episodes. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for watching another episode of Just Call Me Bridget podcast. If you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss upcoming episodes. And also, if you would like to see more of the podcast and more from our guests, subscribe to our Patreon channel as well. I have so much information in there already. You'll also be able to do an Australian consultation with me. And there's heaps of other different options, and you can also support this channel. If you do have any questions, or you have maybe other guests that you're thinking that you would love to have on this podcast, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in another episode.